Hey folks, Gene Galin here with the Chatham Journal. This is Eric Andrews with Realty World Carolina Properties. This is take two for us because I messed up the first time. Yeah, easy for me to say. All right, we're going to talk about real estate because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in real estate. Eric's one of the prime land sellers here in the county. He's gotten awards for it. He's good at what he does. I've known him for dozens of years, and we're just going to talk about it because stuff has just changed a lot, and you got stats.
Yeah.
And so let's start off. Where do you want to start off at?
Well, I think one of the things that we should talk about is the state of the real estate market now here and also nationally. Everybody's talking about interest rates and the prices of homes. There's still like a 6 to 7 million housing shortage in the U.S. right now. So
why is that?
Well, more people are coming here, and we have a generation right now that's higher in population that's entering into the housing market. There are people, one of the normal cycles of real estate is as people get older, they downsize. They're looking for that townhome or condo or maybe some kind of retirement living. And one of the sticks in the spokes is the interest rate. So
What is it right now anyway?
You'll hear 7.25 is the most common thing, but that's like the best case scenario. That's if you have a great credit score, you're way over 700, you have a down payment. But it's not uncommon for me to see 8s right now. So that's a big difference between 2.5, 2.75, 3.25. We were that a couple years ago. That was the lowest it had been ever.
And you literally mean a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
it's been that short period of time.
So the purchasing power of, you don't ever want to think about payments, but people do think about payments and what they can afford monthly. And, the change in the interest rate makes a huge difference in what people can afford. You don't ever, everybody has their own qualification systems or whatever, but if you want a rough barometer of what you can afford is to divide your income by 3, and that's your monthly housing payment that you can afford. But not everybody wants to spend that much. Not everyone can afford to spend that much. Along with the rise in interest rates, we also are seeing rents become more and more scarce. So affordable housing or workforce housing, whatever you want to call it, is definitely one of our biggest issues nationally, and it surely is one of our biggest issues here in Chatham County.
Yeah, let's refer to it as workforce housing because you and I have talked about it previously. The term affordable housing in certain people's minds has a certain preset parameter.
Right.
But workforce, when you and I talk about workforce housing, we're talking about what? Your teachers, your police officers, your EMS folks.
You got to consider your average family income. Believe it or not, the average family income in Chatham County is relatively high, and it's you can say the national average family income is around 58. Chatham County is probably around 62. That puts you in like a 250 or maybe stretching it to a $300,000 house. We don't have 250 and $300,000 homes right now.
And payment wise, you said take that amount and divide by 3, so you're talking
your
about
gross income. Your gross monthly income.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 62 rent wise would be about what?
Well, you're gonna make me do math. About.
See, 50, math is good to know.
Right. About 1,700.
Okay.
Yeah. I think our average rent right now is 1,400. But here's one of the real interesting things that's happening, again in Chatham County and nationally. If you have a landlord that bought a rental 10 years ago at say 200,000, okay, and now that rental is worth 400,000 or 500,000, okay, they can grab that 300,000 in profit, invest it in the stock market or some kind of money market account. It takes a long time to get $300,000 in rent. So it's at some point it's not even making sense for the landlord right now. They're better off just selling rather than having a rental. So that's going to make.
So are you seeing landlords doing that?
Well, it's definitely coming up in conversation, and when they see what their property is worth, it's a little bit of a sticker shock, and they have the dream of maybe wanting to buy something at the coast or maybe buying something in the mountains, and so it's becoming a big factor.
Right, you mentioned the average household salary, and that's households, not individuals.
Right,
62,000. So You're talking if I've got a $62,000 average salary for my household, I can spend comfortably $250,000 to $300,000 for a home.
Well, it's probably 200 to 250.
Okay,
That's
200 to
comfortable, and then 250 to 300 is the stretch.
All right.
Yeah.
Now here comes the big question: what's the average sales price here of a home in Chatham County?
We're just north of 500.
Okay, so pretty much it's twice what the average household income would comfortably be able to afford.
Yeah, when we first opened our doors, our average was 85,000 as a firm. Our average now is probably 650, 640. Our average new construction is just under $1 million right now. We're seeing very few under $1 million, and so I think our average new construction is like 975, which this has blown my mind. I mean, these are incredible prices. I went to a conference in Durham for the state commercial board, and I was having sticker shock that we were at $300 a foot, and every single person on that board said, "You'll remember when it was only 300." I mean, they said that we're going to be at 4 or 5, maybe even 600 real quick.
What was it a couple of years ago? It was under 200. It was like 175.
It was probably low 200s. Yeah. But again, I remember $64 a foot, and for a long time it was $100 a foot, which was nice because that was easy math.
Right. Now you mentioned when you started out, the average house that your firm was, and what year was that?
2000.
Okay.
2000.
So, we're going from 2000 to 2024.
That's a long time.
That's a long time, but the jump that you've seen, that's pretty much recent. As you started off saying, it's been
pre-COVID and post-COVID. That's what people are talking about, how with the interest rates, the market's softer right now. North Carolina on average still went up between 4.5% and 5% just from March of 2023, and we've probably gone up 25% in just the last 3 years. So a $400,000 home in just a couple of years is now $500,000. That's just amazing.
What's the good side of that, and what's the bad side of that?
I think the good side is that people have equity, and that's something that they can dip into. They can do a home equity line, and buy other things or make improvements to their house, or maybe help out with college education or whatever. So people have value and equity in their home that they can borrow from. The single greatest way for Americans to accumulate wealth is equity in their home. So, not only are you making payments and applying to principal and getting equity that way, but because of the appreciation, you're getting more equity. So that's the good side. The bad side is the inversion of and the discrepancy of how people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are able to accumulate wealth, and people in their 20s and 30s are going to have a really tough time because they can't enter into that housing market, purchase a home, and accumulate that wealth and realize the appreciation. So they're like, and that could have implications for years to come, because our younger people aren't able to generate the wealth. I mean, we're at a very big advantage right now if you own a home to create wealth for yourself.
And that's at any age. You mentioned if you can get in and get a home, that gives you an advantage.
Right.
Are you seeing situations where younger folks are buying older folks' homes and having to update them because they don't have certain features that younger folks expect?
Well, that goes back to what we were talking about before. Those older people don't want to or can't afford to give up their 2.5% interest for it. So the older people, the people that are in their 50s and 60s, might as well just stay in their house, because if they're to replace it, their payment could be significantly higher. So we don't have the normal cycle in the entry-level buyers, the move-up buyers, and then the retired downsizers. We're not having the normal cycle. So all we have really in this area is people moving from urban areas to suburban areas, or we have people coming in from the West Coast or the Northeast. I mean, the Sun Belt is, I think 75% of the population growth in the U.S. occurred in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, and it's inbound from the U.S. and also here in the Triangle. I think we're getting a lot of folks from outside the country moving in as well.
Yeah, I was at the UNC School of Government this week for a planning board class, which was very interesting. We looked at all the demographics of the state, and the thing that blows my mind, I learned this from a Ready class I took with Golden Leaf, but we just assume that all of North Carolina is growing, And the areas between the coast and Raleigh are having a decline in population, and some of the mountain counties are having a decline in population. So you have what we call the Magic Crescent, okay? That's Raleigh, Greensboro, Charlotte. That's the Magic Crescent. That's that I-40, I-85 corridor just growing like crazy, and even 64, all along that area growing like crazy. You have the spot of Wilmington growing like crazy, and then you have the spot of Asheville growing like crazy. But the area between Raleigh and Wilmington is having a decrease in population, and then you have some like non-touristy counties in the mountains, and they're aging out. Once the young people graduate, they're getting the heck out, and they're going to
that golden crescent.
Yeah. But you think all ships rise with the tide, and that all of North Carolina is growing. It's the haves and have-nots. This is we're really, really lucky to be in the Raleigh area, and Greensboro is having phenomenal growth right now, and Charlotte is too.
Talking about older folks, you're saying they're in a pretty good position, but if I bought a house for $250 and it's now worth $500,000 and I have to sell it, what are my options? Does that kind of trap me into still staying where I'm at? Because what am I going to get with that $500K at a larger percentage rate?
Right. And so in Chatham County, the Pittsboro's had its restrictions with sewer. Siler City now has restrictions with sewer. We know that the county doesn't have sewer. And so one of the reasons why the price point is so much higher in Chatham County as compared to Orange or Wake County is Orange and Wake have more sewer availability, and they have condos and townhomes. We do not have that as a product. I mean, we have a few of them, whatever, but it's not a common product in this area.
Well, condos and townhomes and apartments haven't ever been a big feature in Chatham County, have they?
No, they're about to be. So I think what Disney's going to be doing is going to be some smaller homes, and then.
But those aren't going to necessarily be less expensive, are they?
No, probably not.
Yeah, because we talked about this several months ago, and the stuff I've seen is based upon their other developments. It's.
Well, the one they're in California, I think they said starting at $1.5 million, and it's probably averaging $2 million. That's the one in Palm Springs. I don't think we're going to be that high here, but. I really think that there's a lot of people waiting for the market to soften, and I know that people think that I probably have a vested interest to say it's going to keep on going up, but I'm telling you, I'm looking at the data, and I think it's really going to keep on going up. This is not hype or propaganda. I really believe that we're going to have if interest rates ever do soften or go down, we're going to have another explosion.